101, the first webinar of the National Beginning Farmer Technical Assistance Initiative. My name is Ava Agudelo. I'm the National Technical Assistance Coordinator for the New Entry Sustainable Farming Project. I want to thank everybody who's here for joining us. We've had great response to this event and it's a really good turnout, so we're going to get started right now because we have a lot of material to cover in the next hour and a half. Great, so here's our agenda for this session. We're going to start with a quick introduction to the webinar software, hopefully give more people time to show up, and then after that I'm going to discuss some basic elements of farm incubators, which most of you should be familiar with, so I won't take too much time on that. Then I'll move into discussing the National Technical Assistance Initiative, and then our presenters will each spend about 10 minutes discussing their projects. After that, I'm going to quickly let you know about some upcoming events, how to stay involved, and then we'll wrap up with a 15 to 20-minute question and answer session. Please do type in your questions as you think of them. We'll answer webinar tech questions throughout the webinar, but we'll compile and save the topic-related questions until the Q&A session at the end in the interest of time. We are recording this webinar, and it will be available on our website. I'll give you that web location in a few slides. I just want to make sure that everybody can see what we're doing. So, okay, great. Sorry about that. So, great. So we're using the GoToWebinar service to bring you this webinar. In case you're not familiar with the controls, here's just a quick orientation. This is what your starting screen should look like. If your screen looks like this, then your control panel has been minimized. You'll want to access that during the presentation to ask questions. So if it is minimized, just click the double arrow button. On some computers, it's orange, and then if you want to click that same button to minimize the control panel, again, you can do that. To keep the control panel visible at all times, you do need to take an extra step. Just go to the View menu and click Auto Hide the Control Panel to remove the check mark from the menu option. If you're, so there, that's what that was. If you are joining the webinar, the audio mode will default to using your computer mic and speakers. If you'd like to use your telephone instead, select Use Telephone in the audio section of the control panel and then follow the dial-in instructions. Make sure to dial your audio pin, which is unique to you. If you haven't done that yet and you're joining by phone, please take a minute to do that now. You are muted to make sure that everyone can hear the presenters. The audio portion of the control panel shows some other useful information, and the control panel will also display which presenter is speaking. Although you will be muted, you can interact with the panelists during the question using the question box. As I mentioned, we've set aside time to answer questions after the formal presentation, but you can ask your question at any time during the presentation. And when you submit a question, just be as specific as possible. It's helpful if you indicate which speaker you're addressing. And your submitted question appears in the question log in gray, indicating that the organizers have received your question, but no one else on the webinar can see your question. We may not have time to answer all the questions during the question and answer segment of the webinar. Some questions might be answered in the question box, so keep an eye on that area. After the webinar, we will post answers to questions that were not answered on the same section of our website, where we will also be putting the recorded webinar, and you'll get a link to that at a later time. And so this is the file path of where the webinar recording is eventually actually going to be. It'll be there within 24 hours, so you can go back and review the presentations, but please copy down this path, and we'll also send out a follow-up email to you with the actual web link. We'll also be redirecting you when the survey closes to a very quick evaluation. Please do take a moment to fill this out. It's absolutely vital that we have your input and feedback, especially because we're in the early stages of this project, so we want to know what all of you have to say about these presentations. So that wraps up the housekeeping. Now I'm going to just move right into our next section on farm incubators in general and the National Technical Assistance Project overview. So Farm incubator projects are certainly on the rise in the United States. There are a number of factors contributing to this, perhaps most importantly the rise in demand for food purchased from small-scale organic and local farms. We've all seen this trend in the last few years, and we've certainly all seen the rise in number of people interested in pursuing farming careers. In addition, there are a number of sources of federal funding for projects that support new farmers, particularly those from immigrant backgrounds, as you can see listed here. The map on this slide was created by Kate Foster at ISED Solutions in Washington, D.C., and it shows over 30 land-based farm incubator projects across the country. And that is actually not accounting for projects that don't have land yet or operating a non-land-based project that also trains beginning farmers. So we're definitely seeing a very big increase in this arena, which means a lot of opportunity. And what are all of these projects trying to accomplish? Well, we have a few clear goals. Obviously, first and foremost, we want to get more farmers on the land. We want to make sure they're set up to succeed with the tools and educational opportunities that they need to run a viable small farm business. And our larger goals include ensuring a secure national food supply, which is really dependent on there being a next generation of farmers out there to become stewards of the land. Farm incubators also drive economic development because we're primarily working with entrepreneurs who bring health and wealth into their communities. And finally, many of us are working with at-risk populations or within low-income communities or communities of color, and we know that bringing people these economic opportunities and a relationship with the land and growing food is an incredibly empowering activity for the farmers and farm families that we support. And it also empowers people who purchase that food to lead healthier and more socially and ecologically responsible lives overall. So good for everybody. Most incubator projects have very similar components listed here. I'm not going to read these because I'm sure most of you are familiar with them. And some projects have more of some of these and less of others, or vice versa. Each of these projects presenting today will go into much more depth about how these different pieces operate on the ground and over time. Along with our shared characteristics, we also have many shared challenges that are somewhat inherent in the nature of the work we're doing and also within the reasons that we're doing it. So access to land is a problem for farmers. It's also a problem for farm incubator projects, and that's one of the reasons that we're trying to find land for farmers. So managing shared infrastructure is a challenge, especially when dealing with soil fertility and rotations. So New Entry was both experiencing and hearing a lot of these issues come up and realizing that there was no standardized guidebook or set of tools for incubator projects to use as they were getting going. And a lot of folks are put in the position of reinventing that proverbial wheel. So given this demand for farm products and the rapid proliferation of new incubator projects, and the fact that New Entry and a few other projects around the country have been grappling with these challenges that we just looked at for a number of years, we decided to create a more systematic way to support new startup incubator projects. New Entry received funding starting in 2012 to create a 2-year dissemination and technical assistance program to serve new land-based farm incubator projects across the country. So all of the project partners shown here are organizations who had been getting numerous requests for technical assistance in one form or another for years and have a lot of expertise. They signed on as technical assistance providers for this initiative specifically. As you'll see in the upcoming presentations, these veteran incubator projects combined have decades of experience supporting new farmers, which, as you're probably realizing or have already realized, requires quite a few different specializations and capabilities. Each project starts to realize at some point that farmer education or leasing land to farmers is just one piece of the puzzle, and we also have to contend with market access and the regulatory climate in terms of food safety or managing and funding shared infrastructure and eventually transitioning farmers to their own land. And these are all tricky topics, and this initiative is designed to give those of you just starting out the benefit of the experience of projects who have already walked that path. With that in mind, our major activities over the next 2 years are listed here. First, webinars, such as this one, based on topics that you all actually ideally will be choosing. We already have a list of suggestions going that we've gotten from other incubator projects, but you know, big topics really seem to be capitalizing the project, transitioning farmers off land, marketing cooperatives, and a few other big ones. You will have an opportunity to add your suggestions in the follow-up evaluation to this webinar if you'd like, and we'll tally up who all wants to learn about what and use that to inform what we do in the future. We'll also be conducting a field school in late September or early October in Massachusetts and probably maybe in Vermont, where we'll do some in-class work, one-on-one project development, networking, and field trips to incubator farm sites. So if you're interested in that. In addition, we and the project partners are offering some one-on-one technical assistance to those of you who have specific questions you need answered, and I'm going to discuss that a little bit more on the next slide. That part of it hasn't been completely fully formed yet, so just be aware of that. We'll also have an online resource area with materials from our various partners on running different aspects of an incubator project, manuals and curriculum and things of that nature. And eventually we would like to have a national meeting of incubators, probably as a one-day event, part of another national conference, to set up a community of practice where we all have the opportunity to collaborate and learn from each other. This is a proposed map of how the referral process would work. So all the partner organizations currently get a good number of calls for technical assistance. We wanted to coordinate this process and make sure everyone is getting sent the best people for the job and the people who actually have the time to provide technical assistance. So the first step would be startup incubators contacting either the organization itself or the project administrator, which is me, and then going through an intake process where we find out more about your project and your needs, explain the fee structure, number of hours available, and then send you back out to the group that can help you. We do hope this will make the whole process a lot more streamlined and efficient, and again, this is really just a proposal. We haven't set any of this in stone yet. So, and there are a few different ways that referrals can happen, so this might not be the only way that that goes either. So that's the basic idea. We will continue to promote our webinars and events, but do feel free to get in touch. Visit our website, get on our mailing list, give us feedback. This is really exciting work that we're all doing, and coordinating our efforts to support each other is really a great opportunity to just build the movement even further. So we're going to keep going. Now I just want to find out who actually is in the room. There are a lot of people registered, and we want to know where you're located and what stage your project is in. So I'm going to go and open this first poll, and I'll leave it open for a minute. First, where your project is located. Great. Thank you for clicking those buttons. I was going to answer questions if anybody had them while we're doing this, but nobody's got questions. And we've got 84%, 85%. Looks like heavily weighted toward the northeast at this moment. Some in the southeast, southwest. I'm sorry about the vagary of the regions. We only had the option to give you 5 choices, so I couldn't use the USDA definitions of growing locations. Okay, great. So we're at 89%, so I'm going to close that, and you can all see where folks are located. And then we're going to do a second poll now, which is at what stage of development is your incubator project at the moment? Great, this is super useful information. We're really looking forward to finding out who all is interested in this project and initiative. I'm going to leave it open for another 10 seconds. Okay, last chance. And we're going to close it and share it with everybody so folks can see. Looks like a lot of people are in their very, very early stages, which is great. And about 20% in operation up to 1 year, 19% in operation 2 to 4 years. Great. Really good to know. Okay, so now we all have a better sense of who's here. I'm going to turn it over to Julie at the Intervale Center. And Julie, are you all set and ready to take it away?
I am. The screen just disappeared. Hold on.
It'll come back.
That's strange. Okay.
Got it?
Um, that's strange. No, I don't have it. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
People can see my screen. It was working just fine. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened.
That's okay.
So
I
people,
think,
it looks like people. Are you
oh, and
seeing my screen or are you seeing?
yep, I can see your screen now. Okay, so
Okay, should
here's
I
what we're
just
going to,
start the PowerPoint on my screen?
no, I'm going to switch you out, and then I'm going to do this. Okay?
Okay, I'm
And
not
I
touching
think,
anything.
there we
There we
go.
go.
But we need to go through and get back to where we were. Sorry about that, guys. This is my first time. Okay. Ready, Julie?
Yep. Okay, great. So my name's Julie Lebeau. I'm from the Intervale Center in Burlington, Vermont. And we are an incubator program that's been around since the late 80s. I was here personally as a farmer in the 90s. I started farming here in 1993 and spent my 20s here and then moved on to my own farm, so I'm an actual alumni and graduate of the program, and then came back more recently a couple years ago as a part-time staff person, and I still also have a farm business of my own, so I do both. Ava, I'm still not seeing, sorry to, there we go. So are you going to click the screens forward, or did I
Nope,
just
you click
go
through.
slides? Okay, okay. And
You
is
got
it
it?
just delayed? I'm not, oh, okay, it's the space bar. Got it. Okay, so
Okay.
Burlington, which was that previous slide, sorry about that. And is the audio working all right? Our internet seems to be cutting out a little bit, so it's choppy at times. Are you hearing that choppiness too?
I can hear
No.
you fine.
Okay, okay. Hopefully that's the end of the technical talk. So this is Burlington, just to give everyone a sense. I'm sure many of you have been here, but Burlington, and that includes the college population. The Intervale is just on the northern edge of the city. It's the kind of green part that you see at the top of the photo on the left. And there's a big smokestack, which is our neighbor. It's an electric producing facility that uses wood chips to make electricity. And our farm fields are just all around the base of that giant smokestack that you see, basically. And oh, I'm trying to move forward now. There we go. There's an aerial photo. So the interesting thing about the Intervales is made up of 12 independent farms. I think in the regular population in Burlington, there's sometimes confusion. They think there's maybe one farm that we oversee and everybody works for us or something like that. But in fact, we're the nonprofit that manages the land upon which there are 12 independent farms. It's beautiful river bottom land that does flood, which has been a problem in recent years, and which I think when we talk about the challenges for incubators, that's definitely one of our particular challenges. It's hard to convince new seasoned farmers that they should set up shop for 5 years in a place that floods. That's a big hurdle that people don't have their brain around right now, especially after Irene last year. And I'm trying to make the slide go forward. I'm not sure why it's not working every time. Ava, do you have any idea why the slide's not moving forward?
No, I don't. And can you try hitting the down button on your keyboard instead of the space bar? Maybe that would
Yeah.
help.
Okay. I am doing that now. how's the sound? I'm getting a couple messages that the sound is very low.
There we go.
Okay. So here's a picture. These are some of the farmers that are renting the land here. The bulk of the farms sell to through CSAs, farmers markets, and local. Most all of the produce grown is sold right in Burlington. It doesn't get shipped out towards the Boston area or New York or anything like that. It's all consumed right in the Burlington area. And the long pauses are me trying to push the slide forward. It's awkward. I'm sorry about that.
If you're clicking on the dashboard at all and then not clicking back on the presentation, that might impact your ability to change the slide. But if you want to just tell me, I can change the slides for you, and that should be fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
The way the Intervale was began as a kind of nonprofit entity is really interesting. It was with the support of it was consumer driven. So right next to the farm fields is the home base of Gardner Supply Company, which was founded by a real visionary and a kind of socially conscious, entrepreneur who started Gardner Supply. And some of the late 80s wanted to have a farm they could call their own. They didn't want to actually be farming, but they wanted to eat the produce from a local farm. So they rented some land and found a farmer to grow for them, and initially started a CSA. That farm still exists here. It's the largest tenant of the Intervale Center. They farm on 50 acres and have a 450-member CSA, I believe. So I think in terms of our early successes as a nonprofit trying to lease land to a group of beginning farmers, having an anchor tenant with a lot of community support around it was one of the really important first steps that then created a steady base from which we could invite other farmers to join, and it just snowballed from that. Slide, please. Ava?
Yep, I just changed it.
Oh, it's not changed on mine. Oh, there we go. As with many incubator projects, one of the real successes of ours is that we have a really great inventory of equipment and implements that make vegetable farming much, much easier. And a number of years ago, the farmers got together and decided they wanted to own that equipment on their own as their own company. So they formed an LLC, and the Intervale Center as a nonprofit is a 20% owner in that LLC, but the remainder of the ownership is with the farmers who are here. So they have taken over the maintenance of the equipment, the ownership of it, the replacement of the new equipment as needed, and they also do all the administrative each other by the hour for the use of the equipment and happen around the equipment. So that's been a really interesting development in the past 6 years. When I was here, almost 20 years ago, there was the equipment was all owned by the nonprofit, by the Intervale Center, and there was sometimes things didn't move as quickly as they could from a farmer's perspective. And I think that's been alleviated by the farmers getting together and owning the equipment themselves. They can, make decisions, find financing as needed, and have worked together really, really well. This is something that I think might be unique to so many of the incubator programs out there. And our farmers tend to be highly educated and love to sit in meetings and, have really good process around decision making. And, so that is, again, something that might be unique to the Intervale, but it's worked out really well for us. Next slide, please.
Julie, you're still a little bit low. If you could speak a little bit closer to the mic, or
if I'm holding the mic a little closer now. Does that help?
Yep, that does help.
Okay,
and just
great.
Yeah, just louder.
I'll speak up too.
Thank you.
We have just wonderful community here. There's many events that bring people down here, lots of volunteers, but the farmers and all of their staff really create a great sense of community. They organize crop mobs where people from the community are invited to come volunteer for a few hours to work on a project like harvesting carrots, for example, and take home produce and a great sense of fun and belonging as a result of it. And again, that's an advantage of being so close to the city and having such a group of dynamic people as the tenants here, as our incubators. Another key to the Intervale success is how much the community is involved. And every Thursday in the summertime, the Intervale Center organizes a really great event called Summervale. It's every music, there's food, there's activities for kids, and it's a great way to bring people down from the community and to really raise a lot of awareness about the Incubator program. I think this is key to our fundraising efforts. To have this much goodwill from the community and so much community involvement really has helped with just the small donations that we might receive from community members. Our funding comes from many sources, private foundations, some government funding, but also a lot of just small donations from people in the community. So this is a way to and a way to just increase the community spirit around the Intervale. Next slide, please.
You still got to go louder. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Sorry about that. This is just another photo of Summervale. You can click through this. We don't need to take a lot of time on it. It's a little peripheral. And to our incubating new farmers is helping them find new markets. And 3 years ago, so the Intervale staff, Sona Desai and Brianna Farber, started the Intervale Food Hub, which is a large CSA. They have 375 members. It's a year-round CSA. They do all workplace delivery of baskets every week. And this has created a good-sized, account farmers, whether they're Intervale incubators or even outside of the Intervale. There's 25 farms contributing to the food hub. The produce is aggregated and then split up into the individual baskets and delivered, and it's been a really, really wonderful account for new farmers. And next slide, please. You can click through these kind of quickly, Ava. So this is the Intervale Food Hub. I just wanted to give you a sense. These are the baskets. Produce brought in from lots of different growers, including these beautiful mushrooms from a local grower. Artichokes. This is in the Intervale. You can keep clicking.
Louder, Julie.
You can keep clicking through these slides of the Food Hub. I just was showing you these as a way to see that we're supporting lots of different growers with these different products through the Food Hub. The shares are delivered by bicycle. You can keep clicking. Great. Workplace delivery. Okay. We partner with a local organization called the Association of Africans Living in Vermont, and it's a refugee agriculture project. And they rent households, and we consider this, part of our incubator program in a way, but it's a partnership. It's not just our program. We consult with the Association of Africans Living in Vermont and help with the kind of agricultural technical assistance, and they have 2 acres in the Intervale and 6 acres on some neighboring farmland just down the river from us, and it's an incredible program. And the role of the Intervale is to help find markets, help develop crop plans, and to help people learn how to market produce in a new climate, in a new country. I'm just reading a note about my sound quality. I think it is related to my internet connection. I'm very sorry about that. Next slide, please, Ava. Okay. Farmers at the Intervale, when they come on as incubators, they stay for 5 years and then move on. We have a number of farms that stay as mentor farms, and some of those farms have been here 20 years, and they stay and help teach the ropes to the new farmers. And one of our challenges currently is that we are at capacity with land. We have small plots of land available for incubators, and it's been a little bit of a challenge to find new farmers for those smaller plots, especially given the flooding that's happened. And also because of our market climate. Burlington is a city that's now fairly saturated in the summertime with produce, with local produce. And outside of doing some really innovative market development, such as the food hub or working with regional distributors or large supermarket chains, it's very difficult at this point for new growers to get into some of the easier, more obvious accounts like stores and restaurants, you know, small independent grocery stores and restaurants. Can I have the next slide, please? And this is back to the new farms for new Americans. We can just keep clicking through this so we can keep it specific to the incubators. And then another focus for us is business education and entrepreneurial development. So we work with farms and connect them with consultants. We have a program called Success on Farms, which is a business planning process that farms can sign up for. There's a grant called Farm Viability that helps them pay for consultants for 2 years to work on any aspect of their business that needs development. We do this type of work not just with farms in the Intervale, but with farms throughout Vermont. And it's been a key part of the success of some of our incubators in the Intervale. They've gone through this program, and it's given them a really good basis for developing a business that they can then take outside of the Intervale. Next slide, please. So the type of work that we do with the incubators and with Morris is, you know, record keeping, bookkeeping, goal setting, things like that, and just to help farmers really work on any specific aspect of their business. And the success rate has been really tremendous. People who go through this program, you know, see big increases in their sales or their bottom line or other kind of quality of life goals they may be trying to achieve. Go ahead, please, Ava.
Sorry, everybody. There's a delay when I switch the slides too. So.
Okay.
After this one?
Yeah. So we welcome visitors. We bring people here for tours all the time. We also have a farmer manual that we've been developing, you know, since the beginning of the Intervale. So it includes our lease agreement, our land use protocols, all the nitty-gritty details of, you know, how to sign out a piece of equipment, work, kind of shared work requirements. Everybody's required to kind of pitch in and work together on projects that around common areas, common land. We offer consulting for organizations that are trying to set up incubators. We do kind of on the sort of site visits or welcome people here, and we're happy to work with anyone who wants to work with us. So please come visit if you're anywhere in the Burlington area. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. That was great. I'm so sorry about the sound. So next up
I
am
too.
Yep. And Julie's information is definitely easy to find on the internet. They have contact information at the Intervale site, and it looks like your contact info has been covered by the logo there, so I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I just posted it.
Great, perfect. Thank you. So, Jennifer, you're up.
Nope, don't show my screen.
Okay. Never mind. Okay, you ready?
Yep, you're still the presenter, so that's fine. You'll just have to forward the slides as well.
I can actually, I'll give you the mouse again. You can do it.
Not working.
Okay. Go for it.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, and thanks for being patient with our technical difficulties here. My name is Jennifer Hashley, and I'm the director of the New Entry Sustainable Farming Project, and I just wanted to give a little bit of a background about the work that we've been doing in relation to incubator farms here in Massachusetts. So, next slide. So just to give a sense of where we're located, we're here and serving in the northeast section of Massachusetts. We have 3 incubator training farm sites that we've established over the last 14 years. We started out with the first site at the John Oganowski farm up in Dracut as our first incubator and mentor farm location, and since then we've transitioned that original site to an independent farm site and established 3 other training sites in the same town. And one of the unique things about doing that has made it logistically easy for us to service multiple incubator sites in the same community at a very tight geographic radius. That's enabled a lot of our work to be able to help the farmers develop a food hub, which I'll talk about a little bit later, but everything is in a pretty small geographic area, which makes it easier for service provision and for the farmers to access the resources that we provide. So our mission of New Entry is to help develop comprehensive strategies to assist limited resource farmers to successfully start farming in Massachusetts. And we have a lot of goals associated with that, but basically our major goal is to become sort of the asparagus to zucchini support service for farmers who are looking to get started. And part of our larger goals are to support the region's agriculture to keep farmland active in production, to help develop economic self-reliance among our participants, and to expand access to culturally appropriate food that are produced locally. So we work with a very diverse range of growers. Our program initially focused exclusively on immigrants and refugees for probably the first 9 years or so. And in 2007, with the growing local food movement, we started having much more interest by U.S.-born citizens looking to get into farming. So since that time, in the last 5 years or so, we've been a United Nations of people looking to farm, and we serve everyone. So we have folks of all different age ranges, from young people to retirees, folks that are from all different backgrounds from around the world, mostly Southeast Asian and African immigrants and refugees, and other folks as well, and U.S.-born citizens. We're seeing a big increase in female farmers getting into the business, and a very diverse array of enterprises, from fruit and vegetable production to livestock to value-added food processing and beyond. So our program goals are really to try to help remove a lot of the barriers to getting into farming by providing access to information and technical assistance through our farm business planning courses. We offer both an online and in-person classroom-based farm business planning course that we require of participants to participate in before they get access to land on our incubator sites. And then that helps them develop their startup crop production, marketing, financial plans, and everything they need to kind of put their thoughts on paper to be able to move forward. If they do develop a comprehensive farm business plan, then they're eligible to lease land at any of our incubator sites for up to 3 years, and that provides them with a good window of opportunity to get their feet wet, growing with supported technical assistance and access to the infrastructure we provide. It also gives them an adequate time window to develop good records so that they can then become eligible for other USDA programs that may help them further down the road. We provide connections to capital for folks who need assistance with their startup funding to get their businesses going, and we do provide built-in markets with our food hub program called World Peas, which is a multi-producer CSA, and we aggregate additional farm products to sell to institutional markets also. And part of that is to help build their farming experience and reduce the isolation by having this built-in network of other beginning farmers, and we're very connected to a lot of other agricultural support organizations throughout the state. Next slide. So our Incubator Farm program is comprised of not just accessing land on the sites. Folks are eligible to rent up to 1/4 of an acre their first season, and we've started, when we very first started, that was variable. We used to just let people decide in their business planning process how many acres they wanted access to, and we've just found that in eastern Massachusetts a lot of the folks are coming at this, but with other types of things going on in their life, working other jobs, full-time jobs, and we've just found that 1/4 of an acre seems to be a very manageable scale for people to be able to earn sufficient revenue and generate products for market, but not to become so overwhelmed that it's too much to handle. So we limit their first year to 1/4 of an acre. Our training sites, we charge about $650 per acre, so if you divide that by 4, that's their annual rental cost. And then we have other ad hoc fees that are, our a la carte fees that folks can choose from, whether they're going to be putting crop storage in the cooler or using other types of equipment. We do promote sustainable and organic production on the training sites to make that available for everyone who has that built into their business plan. And then after 3 years, they are assisted to transition off the incubator sites onto their own land. Throughout that process, we provide a lot of one-on-one technical assistance and support. Next slide. And that field-based technical assistance we found is really critical to help producers succeed. That technical assistance comes in the form of us coming out to the fields every week and scouting their fields, making sure that they're keeping in line with the production plan that they set forth in the business planning process, answering any questions that they may have, and then that kind of ties into our field-based training series that we provide to everyone as well. So after the classroom-based or distance learning online business planning course ends, we also offer a series of about a dozen hands-on field-based trainings at the incubator sites, and those build the capacity and hands-on skills of the farmers at the sites, and we follow that up with the weekly field scouting and technical assistance. And that could be anything from pest management, weed management, fertility issues, when to harvest things, post-harvest handling, the whole gamut of the technical skills that folks need. So some of the successes that we feel we've had over the past many years of doing this, getting those 3 farms up and running, I think is a success in and of itself. As I'm sure many of you are aware, starting out in this and developing incubator farms, the capitalization of the sites is a big challenge. We've been able to take advantage of USDA cost share programs through NRCS to develop the irrigation systems on 2 of our farm sites. We also received a one-time vitamin litigation fund here in Massachusetts grant, a settlement program that was what also enabled us to buy a lot of our original equipment, and that's something we haven't unfortunately been able to secure another one of those since, but it did get us off on the right start to be able to purchase tractors and greenhouses and storage sheds and various implements and things. Now we try to build in maintenance funding for those items in our budgets for the farms and the fees that we charge to farmers to try to make that as self-supporting as possible. We're also well-versed in providing land access for a limited amount of time and then training and transitioning those farmers to their own sites. We operate a statewide farmland matching service where we are constantly looking for land opportunities for these beginning farmers to transition to additional opportunities in the area. Again, by providing that built-in marketing component that we started in 2005, we've really seen that as a huge opportunity for growers to have a ready market as they're getting started and as they transition to their own farms and are expanding their production capacity. The food hub has been expanding over the years as well, so that's been a nice marriage with the growers and having that market, and that's just one of their many marketing outlets. They are also encouraged and expected to have additional markets other than the food hub. And the business planning has really evolved into a curriculum that is really focused on helping people understand the business planning process to turn their, pie-in-the-sky dreams about becoming a farmer into reality on paper in a way that can work with people from very diverse backgrounds, adult learners of all levels, and we offer that, training one-on-one in the classroom, in the field, and online. Some of the other things that I think have contributed to our success have been amazing partnerships that we've fostered over the years, both local and state partnerships, so that we can work with people who do things best. We don't have to do everything. As much as we try to be comprehensive, we do have good partners that can help with other aspects of our program. And then we have been successful in receiving continued support over the years to be able to seek the resources that we've needed to build all the different comprehensive programs that we offer. Next slide. Some of the challenges in running incubator farms. The big issue that certainly continues to come up every year is sort of the tragedy of the commons. When we're working with multiple producers, sharing land and equipment and infrastructure, there's always, and it's not owned by any one person other than our organization, there's always that case where things don't get managed as if it was your own. So we end up being responsible a lot for, maintaining field edges, fixing the equipment if people aren't treating it as if it was their own, things like that. There's not a lot of built-in incentive if you're going to be on a site for a limited amount of time to do intensive soil building and weed management in a way that you might if it was your own long-term leased land. So that's something that you have to think about in terms of how you're going to approach those challenges, and do you have the staff time to make sure all of that work that the farmers don't do themselves on the sites gets done. A few years ago, we implemented a policy of requiring all the farmers to have their own individual product liability and farm site liability insurance. Although we as a nonprofit organization do provide that for the sites as a whole, we wanted to be able to make sure that we were preparing farmers using the sites to be able to make that transition so that insurance was something that they were already used to doing. And when we did make that transition to requiring the farmers to do that, we did lose a few people from the incubator sites who were unwilling or unable to get the required insurance. So that's something that hasn't been a problem as of late, but is just something that we want to work toward with the farmers on the sites to take that seriously. Another issue that we have that we're working toward is figuring out how to help the farmers scale up. When people start out on a quarter of an acre on our sites, they can expand in their second or third years to the half acre to the 1 acre mark, but that's still really using hand labor, small push, walk behind rototillers or tractors with various implements, but getting folks to that next level when they move off the sites onto maybe a 2 acre, 5 acre, 10 acre farm. It's a big jump to go from a site that's been built out with your irrigation and hoop house and equipment at the ready, where then they need to capitalize all of that on their own, which is part of the transition process as well, finding the land, entering into hopefully a longer term lease arrangement, capitalizing that infrastructure and the rest of the farm operation. And those are things that we need to continue to work toward as we incubate folks, figuring out successful strategies for doing that well. And what I think that our strengths are that we can offer to this National Technical Assistance Initiative is a lot of years of experience running different incubator sites. Even though our 3 sites are within the same community, they're all very different in terms of neighbor relations and what it's taken to get those sites up and running. We're very well versed in working with folks from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, different learning styles, language and literacy needs, and figuring out how to target all of that to people who have a lot going on in their lives, and farming is not necessarily their full-time vocation. So fitting that in with everything else, and providing that market focus that really is our main message we try to send to beginning farmers is start with a business plan and a clear market for your product. And so when we finally added in that built-in marketing component to make that available to producers, we've just seen a tremendous amount of success with that in terms of how they can scale and continue their businesses. Also finding that land connection and transitioning folks off of an incubator setting, and then putting all the pieces of an organization together to fund and maintain and build those programs. So that's what we can offer. There's my contact information available there, and I'm sure you'll be in touch with Ava as this moves forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer. And now we're going to move on to Gary Peterson with the Agriculture and Land-Based Training Association. He's the Development and Communications Director. Gary, you all set?
I believe so, yes. Thank you.
Oh, we can't hear you at all.
Can you
speak
now?
up? Yep, that's much better.
Yes. Good.
Great. And just make sure to speak really, really loudly. Okay?
Certainly.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. You're going to hand over the screen. Okay.
I'm actually not going to hand over the screen because that doesn't seem to be going well. So I'm just going to change slides as we go. And then when you want to share your spreadsheets, let me know and I'll change you as a presenter.
Oh, I was really hoping you
Does
could
that work?
actually hand the screen over. Can we try it?
Yeah.
Forgive everyone as we get underway here. All right. All right. So are we together here with Alba's Farm Business Incubation Cycles, Ava?
Yep, looks good.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, for this opportunity to share from our experience and those of our peers nationwide. Alba is the Agriculture and Land-Based Training Association. We're based here in the Salinas Valley of California, in a region well known for its very intensive fresh fruit and vegetable production. Our mission is to advance economic viability, social equity, and ecological land management among limited resource and aspiring farmers. And the context in which we work, the Salinas Valley and the region, surrounding region, has long been a center for farm worker communities in this intensive vegetable and fruit production that requires a lot of hand labor. More than 20% of Monterey County's working age population works in agriculture, and most of our communities in the Salinas Valley are made up of, by and large, low-income Hispanic immigrants, primarily Mexican Americans, engaged in local agriculture with companies that ship fresh produce nationwide. The opportunity here is for Alba to leverage the field skills and the entrepreneurial capacities and drive of our participants with the educational cycle that we offer each year. The demographics served are very important to Alba. We maintain a fully bilingual program, so all of our education is conducted in Spanish and English in any formal education setting, and our technical assistance is either Spanish or English, of course, as per the need of the participant. And my presentation this afternoon, is going to dive into the cycles that you see behind Alba's work, our seasonal routine here, and a bit about the ways that we track the performance of our program and the participants involved. So our farm business incubation cycle starts with the farmer education program, which is 195 hours over a more than 6 month period. It's accredited by a local community college called Hartnell College, which helps provide some support for our instructional resources for the course. And it's also an opportunity for our participants, many of whom have low levels of formal education, to actually enter a community college course setting here at our education center. And I want to emphasize that one of the areas where we've evolved over the last couple of years has been taking our participants from the initial PEPA program of 195 hours into what we're calling PEPA Phase 2, or the field experience. Prior to this change, we started people out in the incubator program at a lease typically at 1/2 acre. But we found that that actually is too often a high-risk environment for the aspiring farmers. So we've created a field experience where we've allocated nearly 2 acres of ground and there will be 15 people operating together in the Phase 2 field experience for the period of June through October. Following the Phase 2 field experience, those who excel in that process are eligible to enter the Farm Business Incubator, and that is a process with a binding land lease that goes from 30% to 100% of the market rate for the land in our neighborhood here in the Salinas Valley, and that gradually increases over a period of 6 years, after which Alba turns its attention to helping people transition their businesses outside of the incubator. In our agricultural context, where there's possibility to grow year-round, the market rate that we have set right now is $1,850 per acre per year, which is about a little soft perhaps still. But it's been gradually increasing in Alba as we have recognized that it's really important to help people to prepare for the economic realities of operating outside the incubator. Steps 4 and 5 are really important, and we are going to dive into them in a little more depth. There's a business plan update requirement for the annual lease renewal, and we conduct that work in November, December. A lot of it is hands-on technical assistance with the participants, and to generate that business plan update that measures to the farmer's best ability the prior year's performance and makes projections for the upcoming calendar year. And finally, that's of course an annual requirement, and another annual requirement is step 5, and those are the farmer interviews. This is based on a 60-question survey that we've developed over the last couple of years, and it takes the farmer through an in-depth assessment of their business performance and their program experience during the prior calendar year. And the farmer interviews are targeting about 60 process and outcome indicators that Alba tracks as part of our monitoring and evaluation systems here in our program. So we all have on this slide a couple of maps which shows the complexity of our operations. The Rural Development Center on the left and the Triple M Ranch on the right. Both of these farms are certified organic operations here in Monterey County. Alba, of course, is building on a 40-year program experience. The home farm at the Rural Development Center was sold to an upstart nonprofit organization in the early 1970s, and it's been passed from one organization to another since. Alba was created 10 years ago, and currently we have 27 farmers on the Rural Development Center property. This, about the time that Alba was founded, it also acquired the Triple M Ranch, which is the 2/3 of the property is governed by a conservation easement. Thus, Alba was able to take a long-term note and finance the 1/3 of the value of that property. And currently, there are 7 more advanced farmers operating at the Triple M Ranch, and you see some notes there, hopefully are visible on the screen, regarding the different parcels and names of people in our system. We have 150 acres under cultivation, a total of 35 farmers right now. There'll be roughly 15 students. We don't quite have it completely finalized for next month, but it looks like 15 students will be enrolling in TEPA Phase 2. And of those 15 students, we expect to be able to enroll 5 to 6 of them into the Farm Incubator for 2013. One important aspect of our work is Alba Organics, which is a licensed produce distributor that really has its roots in selling to food service operations on university campuses, and we've since expanded into wholesale and other types of markets. And during 2011, Alba Organics purchased more than $2.9 million in produce from farmers. 79% of that came from our trainees. The other 21% represents product that we acquired from partner farmers that provide product that's just not viable for a beginning farmer. For example, tree crops such as citrus and avocados. We've discovered that really to scale up our business, we need to maintain a full suite of options for our customers. I'm going to dive right into our program indicators to give a sense of what we're tracking over time here at Alba. And we believe that this is a suite of topics that is really important for ultimately demonstrating our return on investment. The first thing, of course, we track are the target groups served, demographics, and the all-important baseline data, which includes family income and farm worker status, for example. We look, of course, at our program scale, which is very fundamental, the number of people served by our technical assistants or our workshops, our field days, of course, the farmer education program itself and our incubator, and the number of farmers that are operating elsewhere in the region who started at Alba. The farmer education program, of course, requires student evaluation and feedback from students, and we're moving and coupling with the farmer technical assistants and the workshops and field days a process of diving much more deeply into annual competency reviews with each client to verify that they are focused on developing a full suite of competencies required to operate a small farm in our region. One of the conditions of our lease is continuing education hours, and most of those are earned in workshops and field days. And so we have a relatively modest requirement of 12 hours annually of continuing education for the participants, and that may be growing in the near future. We move along to in the annual farmer survey measuring business financing, loans acquired, and other types of capital. And we, of course, look at farm business incubation and the years that people are able to operate in and outside of the incubator. We have our survey process calibrated such that we're sitting down each year with all the farmers that we can find that, of course, are operating at Alba, and those who have left the incubator anywhere from 2 years ago to 10 years ago. And finally, all important is the economic and community outcomes. We look at and ask for farmers' individual sales, income, jobs, their business status, indicators of their business stability. Some of the business financing questions we look at is, of course, the types, with loans, individual development accounts, other processes like crowdfunding. We also look, of course, at the applications submitted and approved and the overall success rate that results from that, and financing amounts received by the farmers. In terms of economic and community outcomes, we look at income, business growth, jobs, and wealth. We track every year, of course, the business plans that are completed and updated and how they reflect the farmer's potential for long-term growth and stability. We measure the number of jobs created and retained each year. And in a measure that was proposed by the farmers themselves some years ago is number 3 there, the number of clients are exercising philanthropy. And we look at that also as alternative philanthropy, if you will. Donations of produce, volunteering their time, all the different ways that farmers can contribute to their communities. We're asking the farmers in this confidential survey for their household income, and we're able to measure that by year as farmer. We're looking at the clients that are leaving poverty. We're analyzing the business sheet to the balance sheet to ultimately measure wealth and asset creation, and of course looking at long-term access to land and leases or purchases that result from our work. As Alba is looking forward to its next steps, we are updating our annual survey interview We're designing aggregate dashboards that help demonstrate the results of our work more clearly. We're maintaining vigilance on data entry and data integrity, which is vital. We've calibrated a database for staff to be able to track technical assistance and workshop attendance and all of these elements of the annual farmer survey, which gives us a very handy dashboard. For example, how many people received technical assistance over the past month, over the past quarter, over the past year. All of those numbers are available to us in real time thanks to the design of our database. And we'll soon be offering our incubator package on starttofarm.gov. The USDA is a little bit slow in making live the updates to starttofarm.gov. We've been waiting a couple weeks for all of our resource guides to be made available to the public, but they should be happening any day now. And the full package of Alba's monitoring and evaluation systems will be available on starttofarm.gov as soon as possible. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Gary. That was great. And next, we're going to talk to Glenn Hill, who's the Executive Director of the Big River Farms Training Program. Glenn, I'm going to change your slides for you, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Are we ready to go?
We're ready to go.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine.
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. So Minnesota Food Association, we're a 501c3. Started working, and we can go through the slides. Next. I'm going to skip through these farming trends and food system changes. We'll go on. Okay. But we operate a incubator farmer training program. We have about 10 farmers in the program. We need to go back one slide. And I think a couple of the core things are that we do focus on the soil, and we do talk with the farmers a lot about the soil and a soil fertility regime. Next. And the other is that we emphasize that we are farming for market in a systematic manner, and we still respect traditional ways of growing crops, but we are farming for market. We're not farming for gardens or home use, although that is definitely in the picture. All right, next. I'll quickly go through the history because there are a lot of people with startups. We started as a lobbying and advocacy organization back in the early mid-'80s, and it was in the late 90s that we started to see more and more, specifically Hmong and Latino farmers in the area, and nobody was really reaching out to them. So we started to reach out to them and operated as a nonprofit extension service, going and visiting farmers in their fields. And it was about 2003 or so, the board took a decision that we should be on the ground practicing what we preach and have a demonstration place and have an area where farmers can farm. And so we started at our place in, the first season was 2005. Next. Next, please. All right. The need, yeah, we can skip the need. I think we know the need. Our overarching goal is to grow viable farmer enterprises where people can eventually move from being really good growers to being really good farm operators. Next. All right. I've already been through this, but we started in 2005, and we initially started with a section of land where farmers could Initially, I think someone mentioned earlier that farmers could go out and they could mark off what land they wanted to use, and we were using another section of land and operating a CSA, and the CSA was supposed to be a, or it was a demonstration, but also income generating for the organization. But the CSA kept growing, and it was pulling our main technical expertise, our farm manager, away from doing any kind of training or demonstration work. And so it was in 2008 that we integrated the program and started aggregating produce from the farmers in training into the CSA. Next. Okay, so our general outline of our program is we run 12 winter classroom sessions. We focus on organic production and certification, farm business planning, and marketing. This seems to be the main topics that farmers are interested in and have received the greatest challenge in figuring it out. We're working with about 10 farms each year, representing about 25 to 30 people. And then during the season, we conduct field sessions and also have started doing field trips to other farms. The field sessions continue to evolve. Initially, the field sessions were an hour and a half to 2 hours long, and the feedback we had from the farmers was that was too much time to give when they have to commute back and forth from their work or their residence to the field. So we changed it, and we started doing what we call skill sessions, which are very short and to the point technical sessions on how to trellis tomatoes, how to lay down mulch, how to set up an irrigation system. And then if you want more instruction after that, then you can work with our staff and learn more about it. Next. But I would say that our main approach is really the individual one-on-one working with farmers, and this is why they come to us, and the feedback that we get. This is what is really important. Next. There's kind of a delay in there. Another aspect is we do work closely with the USDA, NRCS, and Farm Service Agency, with the University of Minnesota Extension Service and the Department of Ag, but also a number of local nonprofits. We're very fortunate to have some exceptional nonprofits and exceptional university and USDA people in our area. But for example, what we would work on is the EQUIP program, helping farmers to apply for SARE grants, connecting farmers with the Minnesota Grown program of the Department of Agriculture, connecting farmers with Land Stewardship Project or Farmer Legal Action Group or the Association for the Advancement Among Women, or other organizations that are also doing field days and workshops. And then we try to, sometimes we can support the full fees, sometimes we can give a little gas money, but we try to keep our farmers informed about what other happenings are going on around us. All right, next. I think one of the highlights is we started working on an annual Minority and Immigrant Farmer Conference. This started probably 2005, and it's turned into a wonderful gathering. And part of it is the technical information that is given, but I think a large portion of the enthusiasm is it really is a conference that is where immigrant farmers are front and center, and they are the majority. They feel at home, and there's great connections. We made a change about 4 years ago that presentations have to be done by a practitioner, not an expert. They can be co-presented, and so what we've done is people who are in marketing or farmer market managers or restaurant owners that are buying produce, or when we're talking about irrigation or organic production, it has to be a farmer who is doing this. And this has made a world of difference in the conference. Next. Yeah, some of the successes. Right now, I still feel like it's a relatively new program, even though it's been going about 7 years now here on the land. But now we're starting to see more and more farmers able to develop savings and to find credit and to actually move on to their own land. Next. Yeah, I want to get into the challenges and the lessons learned. I think there's many challenges. One of our main challenges is to continue to raise money and to manage the cash flow, because it is a subsidized program, and we do. While in 2007 and 2008 we initially were moving into more production and more earned revenues, we did feel that was within our limited resources and capacity. It was taking our time away from our core operation, which was training farmers. And so we continue to need to raise money. I need to wrap this up quickly.
Yes, please.
Okay. Can I take 2 minutes? I want to run through my lessons learned here. Post-harvest handling is a great way to talk about food safety, and just talking about food safety by itself is not very interesting, but post-harvest handling is interesting to many farmers. We made a shift in 2008 to organic certification, and while initially there was a lot of anxiety with that, organic certification is also a great tool for teaching record keeping in a variety of aspects. And I will close it up with that then, because I think we're running out of time.
Thank you, Glenn. Sorry about that. I just wanted to
and I will
move on to the Q&A period so that we can get to some of the questions, because there are a lot of really good ones.
One last comment is that having really good technical staff on board is totally critical. Farmers respect farmers, and it really is important.
Great. Thank you so much. And sorry about the short time. So I just wanted to go through really quickly some of the next steps for people who want to stay involved in this and keep learning from these different projects. We obviously have more webinars, and then we also have some technical assistance available for land-based projects. And you should get in touch with me if you're interested in that. My contact information will be at the end. We'll have another webinar coming up in the fall after the growing season settles down. And you can give us feedback about topics you'd like to see either in the evaluation at the end or by email. And again, sorry about the technical assistance, sorry about the technical challenges with the webinar. So let's move on to questions. first of all, if folks wanted to talk about equipment funding sources and how people financed initial purchases of equipment on the training sites, that seems to be a question that a number of people have issues with. So if we could get some of the presenters to answer that, that'd be great.
This is Jennifer from the New Entry Sustainable Farming Project. One of the first ways that we were able to buy our initial equipment, somebody had asked what the grant was. It was a one-time, it was a litigation that happened in Massachusetts among the vitamin companies that were price fixing. And so out of the settlement of that, they had to do a funding program to nutrition-related causes. And so we ended up applying for that, and I think it was a $250,000 grant that all went to capital equipment. And that's kind of an anomaly out there, but it was one of the things that helped us really invest in a lot of the farm equipment that got us started. Prior to that, though, we basically had just used local resources to get that work done. So we hired local farmers at their hourly rate with their equipment to come and do the plowing and the harrowing. We'd worked with NRCS and the EQIP program and the Ag Management Assistance Program to do cost share for the irrigation systems. We wrote small foundation grants to help with some of the other startups with buying rototillers and other equipment. So there are lots of creative funding strategies to try to get that capital infrastructure money to start the incubator farm.
Does anyone else have anything to say about that?
Can I jump in on? Yeah, I'll just say real quick, this is Julie from the Intervale. Our initial equipment purchases were made with a community development block grant, but now that the farmers manage the equipment themselves, they purchases either through loans or themselves, but they also build into the hourly rate a saving fund for new purchases and for maintenance. So they just factor all that in, and so as they're using it, the equipment becomes self-funding essentially, because people are charged by the hour.
Great. So let's move on. A number of people asked about the records that are required from farmers, specifically when Gary was speaking. So Gary, maybe you could start talking about that and what sort of specific record keeping you require from farmers.
Yes, well that...
oh, louder please.
That goes into two broad categories. One is certifications / registrations, and the other is, of course, the business record keeping. We have all of our operations are certified organic. That's one layer that's demonstrated. Of course, as was mentioned, the farmers' individual insurances, it's required that they demonstrate those to us. And also there are other layers of regulatory compliance that we're doing education on related to water quality, and labor and workers' compensation insurance, of course. On the business side, it's the business planning framework and the templates that we offer farmers that provide their guideposts for the upcoming season in terms of income and expenses, of course. And as we work with farmers, we make sure that they are doing their best to maintain sales records, and that's enhanced by our own food hub, Alba Organics, which has the hard sales numbers, of course, for those farmers that are selling through Alba Organics. That's an open option for people. So that's a great tool in our monitoring and evaluation. But ultimately, we are encouraging farmers to bring the records to their best ability to track their labor and other expenses, as well as their sales income. And we give people 2 to 4 weeks typically prior to the annual interviews to assemble those numbers, and in conjunction with staff if they require technical assistance in order to present those numbers to us.
Great. Did anyone else want to jump in on that?
This is Glenn. I think it's a real progression, what we're seeing. So we're kind of in a early middle stage, I don't know, but in the beginning, farmers are really interested in production. So we talk about production and how you keep track of production. And then once they can produce, then they're interested in markets. They don't have enough markets. So then that kind of leads us into how you keep track of your markets and what markets you like. And then once you get into markets, then you start looking at what do I need for capital and for land so that I can expand what I'm doing. And while we do try to address a whole gambit of records that will help you to build your business plan, and we try to talk about this in the first year with farmers, really don't get a lot of buy-in from the farmers, a lot of reluctance on that. But as they come to the realization themselves, we find that incentive and we try to build on that incentive.
Great. I wonder if any of you could speak to the different topics that are covered during field trainings and skill shares. That was another question that was asked.
This is Jennifer. In our field training series, we try to follow the seasons of the kind of information that we think people will need before they're actually in the moment of needing to have those skills and abilities. So we start out with greenhouse seeding and propagation, move into sort of laying out the field and making raised beds in the field and kind of tillage and how you lay out your bed plan, equipment safety and maintenance, and then we move into setting up irrigation systems, and then pest management, weed management, fertility management, post-harvest handling, and food safety. Again, assessing ongoing pest and weed control issues throughout the season as we get started before we think that folks are going to be dealing with a lot of those challenges, so that as they're getting their plots set up, we're hosting the trainings every other week, giving them those skills in advance. They're usually 2 to 2.5, 3-hour sessions in the evening so people can get there after work. And someone had asked a question about whether we charge extra for those. Anyone who's come through and paid the course fee for the farm business planning course can take those field trainings as part of that course fee. If we do have additional farmers from the area who come to those open workshops, they pay $15 a session to attend those workshops. And then we do have a technical assistance package that comes with a limited amount of technical assistance as part of the land rental, and then any additional one-on-one, if we go back and work with them as an individual farmer beyond a certain point, then that gets charged on an hourly rate.
This is Glenn at Minnesota Food Association. I would say we follow the same type of schedule and approach to which trainings we do at what times of the year. Mm-hmm.
Great. And a few people asked about per acre land lease fees and what costs are included in those fees, and then also does it vary with the quality of the land? That was specifically for Gary, and how just different pieces of what's provided in the program are actually rolled into that cost, and why it changes based on what factors.
Yeah, well, here I can address that. It's Gary here at Alba, and we do actually have alternative lease rates at the Triple M Ranch, which is a much more hilly and sandy area, requires greater farming skills, but also both its climate, its microclimate, I should say, and the landscape provides some limitations. Here at the Rural Development Center on the floor of the Salinas Valley, we have that $1,850 per acre rate. People pay a percentage of it based on their year in the incubator, and that is only for the land. Irrigation fees and equipment fees are on a by-use basis, and each month we reconcile that and send the farmers invoices for their equipment and irrigation use.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. Wow, this is Glenn again. That's really interesting. We're still working on that, and we've made a few adjustments in the past few years, but right now we charge $350 an acre. That includes 4 hours of tillage, Access to the main line of irrigation, you have to purchase your own hoses to get it into your field. You're covered under our liability insurance. It includes an 8-foot deer fence around the field. Access to each farm gets one pallet size area in the walk-in cooler, and access to the washing facility to wash your produce.
Okay, great. So it looks like we're at time, and there were more questions, and we will try to answer those and get the answers to those questions up on the website where we have the final webinar posted and the presentation posted. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please fill out your evaluations at the end, and do feel free to contact me with any questions. I look forward to hearing your feedback, and let me know if you want to get more involved in this initiative. We will have more webinars coming up again in the fall, and have a great growing season. Thanks again for joining us. Okay.